welcome to another episode of our MM Unpacked series. Once again, I'm joined by Tom, our editor, and Dan, our news editor.
Hello.
I'm Kim, the digital content manager. But yeah, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, pretty good.
Like a walking zombie after 3 days of 3 evenings of events, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, September is pretty stacked in terms of the amount of awards events, including our own awards that just happened, the Money Marketing Awards, which was a great evening at the Londoner, which is such a beautiful venue as well. And I think everyone enjoyed themselves. Everyone enjoyed the silent disco.
Congratulations to all the winners. I left for the silent disco, but I think I was there for all the awards. Congratulations to all of them.
The silent disco was brilliant.
It really was. But it was a fantastic night, and we had great winners. And for the rundown of the evening, we have various videos that are out there, and also we have our gallery that is on the website. So make sure to go check those out and see if you made it into our gallery. So today we're going to be talking about various things that we've covered throughout the month. And Tom, I wanted to start off by talking about your big picture that you talked about advisor life experiences. So what was it about? I mean, I have a vague idea about what but
well, I'm glad you were so enthralled by my picture, Kim. But it's,
I'm trying to act like the audience in terms of not knowing.
Oh yeah,
you know,
it's the anticipation.
It's the anticipation. Yeah. No, it's only just been published. I think this is going out on Monday, but it was only just, and we're recording it the previous week, and it's only just out now. So do please read it. September's big picture. It basically came about because you have a lot of conversations with advisors, during the course of your work, and quite often they mention particular key events or moments that sort of inspired them. Maybe not even to become an advisor, but sort of in some way or another, sort of like changed them or affected them or made them more wise or empathetic, or just in some way increased their sort of wisdom. And quite often they sort of said, actually, when it comes to doing my job as an advisor or a paraplanner or whatever it might be, or in operations or anything within the sort of like, general sector, they said that particular experience really helped me, have better conversations with clients, do my work better, change the way that I see things. And I thought it would be interesting to do a feature just solely concentrated on that. I mean, we're very familiar with the whole sort of, I fell into the advice sector because I wasn't originally, I didn't really consider it originally as a career option. I wasn't even aware of it as a career option. And then for some reason, I was led into it. But this is slightly different. It was more kind of how, there's no such thing as wasted knowledge. We all go through life and accumulate experiences, good or bad. And assuming, we get through them, they change us as people. And, if we process them correctly, hopefully make us grow as individuals. And in the case of the advisors I spoke to, that might be bereavement. It might be moving country. It might be going through a divorce. It might be having children. It might be in the case of second careerists. I talked to a teacher, for example, who said, the experience of dealing with a class full of children, not that I'm comparing clients to a class full of children, but certainly managing that environment gave him a perspective that he then brought into his job. Ditto as an ex-footballer, the what he saw directly with sort of like young sports people, who weren't managing their finances correctly. And there's been a bit about that in the news recently. That effect of, this could be me. And when he ended his sporting career going into advice, for him, the experience of people not managing their finances correctly made the whole thing a lot sharper. And if you think about the conversations you have with clients, if you've got a bit more skin in the game, if you're able to say, look, I get it, I've been there, I've been through this experience, I know what I'm talking about. Not only does it make that person more empathetic. But from the client side of things as well, it may make the advisor feel more authentic as well, or more trustworthy, or all of those kinds of things. So I suppose the overall sort of feeling of the feature was that we're always saying, that this is a very diverse profession in terms of the skills that it calls upon. We're always saying, it's not just about spreadsheets, it's not just about numbers. And if you are interested in other things, if you do have a broader range of knowledge and experience, you'll be amazed at how much of that is transferable into the advice space. So I ended up talking to a lot of people for it. I kind of thought I want to unlock as many different facets as I possibly can and talk to as many different types of people as I can. I ended up, I think, interviewing 17 people in total, and I think I ended up I used about 13 or 14 different sort of like direct first person stories in the feature. It was a nightmare to write. I mean, I'm not looking for sympathy here, but you get all of this stuff together and you think, how do you make sense of this? But in the end, I think it made for a stronger feature because whatever type of, wherever you're coming from, I think there's something in there to relate to. I hope anyway.
Yeah definitely. And Dan?
That's right. I was just going to say, like Tom said, I think it was good that it probably didn't feel like it at the time.
No, it didn't.
But it's probably good that you had those 17 conversations because, as you quite rightly pointed out, every one of those has got like a different lived experience.
Yeah.
Every one of those has been through something in their life that has kind of, changed their viewpoint, and therefore they can take that into financial advice and relate more to their clients. I think it's a really interesting feature.
No, thank you. And interesting, when I did put out the call for people to interview, quite often the call you put out is quite specific, because if you're doing quite a specific feature, hey, has someone, here's someone who's got a specific experience of this or this or this, please get in touch. This one, it was much more kind of like, if you have any interesting life experience that you think is relevant to, how you approach your job. A load of people sort of said, "Oh yeah, I've got this I want to talk about. I've got this I want to talk about." People were enormously generous with their time. So I should definitely thank everyone who did talk to me, and also the people who helped set up some of the interviews as well. You know who you are. Yeah.
Was there anything that you came back and you were like, wow, I've learned something new about financial advice as a profession after talking to these 17 different people?
Well, one interesting, I can't remember the chap's name, I'm afraid, but one person who had been through a divorce said that it wasn't just that he was able to sort of like offer better advice to people who were going through divorces, and what that might mean for sort of like your finances and how you can manage that. But also he said it was almost good therapy for him, because he was talking to an awful lot. Therapists talk about transference, between sort of like the client and the therapist. He said what surprised him is he thought he would be in a better position to sort of advise those types of clients, but actually he was getting an awful lot of emotional support from talking to those clients and saying, well, they've gone through it, or they're going through it, and they're getting on with their lives. I can do the same as well. That's sort of like, he said, it was almost like I was turning into the client in those moments. So yeah, I think probably what that made me think is there's probably quite a lot of, it's not one-way traffic. The advisor is not always the kind of the oracle sitting on the hill, sort of like dispensing advice to the unwise and the unwary. It's much more that that you collectively go on a journey together, and that actually sometimes what the client brings you, is going to in itself enrich your experience, enrich your knowledge, and make you a better advisor when you then go on to other clients. So that sort of made me think of it in slightly different light from that respect.
And going off of that, do you think that advisors should share their personal stories or their backstories in order to build a relationship with their clients, or do you think that's like overstepping a little bit?
I think it can be overset. I think some clients are just not interested in it.
Yeah, I don't care about you.
This is what a lot of people have said. For some people who are just like, give me the facts, give me the figures, and I'm not interested in all this stuff. But I think a lot of people are nervous, wary. They might be just, distrustful initially. They want to build a personal rapport with their advisor because they want that human connection. We say this over and over again whenever we were having these conversations about technology and AI. It can't replace the human touch. And one of the things that goes up to making, an effective human touch, if you like, are those empathetic connections. So I think a lot of advisors sort of say, in the area I'm in, for example, it might be in protection or something like that, and you're someone who's gone, lost a parent very early, and their finances were a complete mess. They're able to say to someone, if they're trying to persuade them to take out life insurance, look, I went through this really traumatic. This is what it means to not have this, or what it can potentially mean to not have this. This is what happened to me. It's a way of making the abstract, real. It's a way of making people understand what it really, really means in the real world. And I think a lot of those people would say, life experience, or sharing life experiences is a real advantage in situations like that. There may be other times where it's not applicable, or it may be just be, as I say, the client doesn't want it. So it's horses for courses. I think a good experienced advisor knows when it would be suitable to disclose and when and when not, really.
Okay. And it is a big feature. It is the big picture. So definitely everyone should read it. It is, as we have dropped this episode, it'll already be out on the money marketing website. I'll probably put a link in the bio for this episode as well, for this feature. So yes, please do go and read that. Another feature was written by Laura Purkess on the Great Wealth Transfer, which has constantly been talked about since I started at money marketing. So Tom, do you want to delve into that? I'm assuming you or Dan, both of you guys edited it, looked over it.
Yeah, it was an interesting sort of idea, because as you say, Kim, we talk about this subject all the time. I mean, for people who don't know, I'm sure everyone does. It is something in the region of 7 trillion is expected to pass to younger generations by 2030, as the sort of like the boomers get older and pass on. And it's the equivalent of like the largest intergenerational wealth shift in history, and that has very, very, very profound impacts potentially on the advisor sector, because all of a sudden, these clients are suddenly going to have to be dealing with different people. And it's surprising the number of advisors or advice firms that don't have like quality intergenerational planning built into how they work. So in terms of talking to not just their clients but their children who are set to inherit, and building those relationships. And that might sound straightforward, but younger people have very different sort of views, outlooks, a very different attitude to handling wealth, a very different attitude to taking advice. With the rise of digital engagement and social media and influencers and what have you, they may well not think that advice is relevant to them, or they may think that they can get it elsewhere and cheaper, and why should I pay for this advisor? They may think this advisor is not relevant. It's one thing, mum or dad was with this advisor for years and years and years, but this advisor isn't really particularly relevant to me. I don't particularly know this person. And so it's not just about how advisors should be thinking about this, which obviously they should be, and I'm sure they are aware of it. But it's a question of, okay, fine, you do have to plan for this wealth transfer. You do have to talk to the younger generations, and set to how do you do that? What are the potential obstacles? Where do you sort of like pitch those discussions? How do you handle it? What should you be aware of? We wanted just to explore that a little bit, and Laura Purkess, who's one of our freelance writers, I think does a very good job of just summarizing some of the sort of like the key points and the key statistics, because when you set it out in black and white, it is quite considerable. And, we talk about it, but I sometimes think we don't quite talk about it enough. You go, yeah, it's going to happen, but this is very, 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 very serious. It's really profound. And, you need to be thinking in depth about these conversations, now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, since Laura's feature was kind of put together, there's actually a report last week from Boring Money, which I kind of think kind of re-emphasised Tom's point and the need to write this feature, which was that over a million older advised clients, I think they class that as 16 above.
Mm-hmm.
Over a million of them believe that their child will not stay with their current advisor.
Which makes sense, because if you're not interacting with the children in any way, and I understand, I've had conversations about, the intergenerational wealth transfer and how advisors choose to interact with the wider family of their client. And some of them, I think they're just a bit apprehensive of doing that because, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, Tom, kind of with how much do you want to share with your client, or how much does your client want to share with you? And this might be something that you as an advisor deem necessary, but your client might just not see the point in introducing you to their children. But I guess it is quite tricky to kind of bring up that conversation and be like, hey, can you bring your kids in? Because it does then feel a little bit like you're a salesperson and you're trying to like sell yourself to the next person. And
well, precisely, yeah. And that's the point of it, really. It's all very well sort of saying, well, you need to engage with your client's children, but how do you do that exactly?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of it's easier said than done. It's sort of like, that's where the behavioral side of things, that's where the psychology, and that's where the sort of to empathy, going back to what I was talking about earlier, comes in. It's not just about the necessity of doing something, but how and where you pitch it.
Yeah.
And obviously, we've been talking, there's been a lot on inheritance tax and what have you recently. In an estate planning context, this is quite a sort of like a live conversation. There's proactive estate planning and demand for compliance for support, but it does make this a sort of like important sort of like growing area of advice. And it's a question of where young people are engaging at the moment. If at the moment they're not talking to their parents' advisors, because why would I? Those are my parents' advisors, but they are being engaged elsewhere. And we talk about the danger of unregulated advice and influencers and ChatGPT and what have you. But if they're engaging, if these people are sort of like circling, like sort of like carrion birds, like, waiting for such a time, those are the people who are set to benefit when that generation inherits, potentially, unless advisors are more on their game. So, it's
one story. Oh, sorry, Tom.
No, Karen.
I'll say one story. I think I might have told this on a previous podcast, but I heard of one advisor who once a year would invite all of his sort of clients and their clients' families around for like an annual family barbecue. Yeah, and I thought that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a great
idea. One way to get them on there without having that awkward kind of conversation to start with. It's just a sort of more of a social setting and get to know the families that way. I thought that was quite clever.
Well, I mean, maybe people should be picking up and run that. I mean, if you think that 7 trillion is set to transfer hands, that's an awful lot of grilling, isn't it? I mean, that's a lot of sausages that be chucked on that barbecue.
A lot of burgers and sausages, yeah.
Yeah,
so a boom for the sausage and burger industry at the same time.
It's like once a year. It's fine. It's not. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But yeah, I think there is a lot that can be done there. But again, it is about the family dynamics, and then again, I guess you're potentially delving into the psychology of the family, because it's like, how comfortable is your client with letting their kids know exactly what is set to be inherited. Do they want their children to know? And that there's just so much that happens within families that, as an advisor, even if you are like, oh, I really want, to carry on the family line, like looking after this client's family, you just don't know what might be happening there.
Yeah, and I think
skeletons might be in the closet.
And then the other worry is that obviously people don't want to talk about death, particularly within families. It's the same reason why people put off talking about, funeral costs or writing wills or paying for care homes, because they don't they don't want to go there. They're sort of reluctant. So, that can potentially get in the way as well as the taboo subjects of do we want to really be talking about money and how much is in the bank and how much you may get? It's sort of, yeah. So yeah, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's certainly something that needs to be thought about.
Yeah,
death and taxes are the two things people don't want to talk about, and the two certainties.
As the
old saying
goes, we talk about it day in, day out. So
which is so weird. I feel like I talk about it all the time. My parents have always talked about it with me. When I was younger, like in my 20s, I definitely didn't want to because I couldn't really comprehend. But now I think as I watch my parents getting older, I'm like, okay, yeah, I do need to know. I'm becoming more pragmatic about it. But I think when I was younger, I was a bit more emotional about it. So maybe we need to have a behavioral therapist come in and discuss potential ways to deal with this.
I do think that boring money report, just going back to that, as Tom said earlier, we've been talking about it a lot, as a publication and the conversations we have with advisors, but I don't think it was until that report came out that I fully realised, the numbers, that 1.2 million older advised clients not believing their child will stay. Yeah, it's only 20% that actually think that, that when their child or grandchild inherits the family wealth, will actually stay their advisor.
I'm curious to know what led them to that conclusion. Is it just that they assumed that they will move on, or if they had conversations with the clients or their children, and that's what they've been verbally told? I'd be curious to know why they think that, and if they think there's anything that they can do to change it.
Yeah, I didn't. I haven't been through the entire report, but the story we ran, it didn't really suggest why. Why that is. So it might be something to look into. That would be interesting.
Interesting follow-up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe one of those things where like the parents are like, I just know my kid never listens to me. So
yeah,
whatever I tell them to do, they're not going to do.
They're going to do the opposite.
Exactly. I've got two like that.
Yeah. Like I am unfortunately someone who'll be like, oh, I can make my own way. And I think maybe that is it. It's not necessarily that you're trying to defy your parent. It's just you're trying to show that you can make your own way.
Yeah.
And then you end up doing it the hard way and then going back to the way that your parents
realizing they're right all along.
Eventually we all turn into our parents, and then the sooner you learn that, the better.
Oh.
I
know. But now we can move on and talk about Dan, your leader, side note, the headline is, will the last of the wealthy please turn off the lights? And I don't know why my brain did this, but it made me think of that Slim Shady song, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? And I don't know why, but it felt like it was linked somehow.
Yeah.
So was it linked?
There was also a famous Sun headline, wasn't there, in the 1992 election, which, if Labour wins tomorrow, will the last person out of Britain please turn off the lights? It was the idea that if Labour wins, we'll all have to abandon this country because it will be that'll be the end of that. It was quite famous. It had Neil Kinnock's face in a light bulb. Yeah.
And there was me thinking I had an original headline.
Yeah, there we go.
Honestly, just
benefits of age.
I know. What year was that, do you think?
1992.
92. I was only four. I was only four then. I wouldn't know.
I was a year old and not in this country, so
no. So it was nothing to do with Eminem, I'm afraid, Kim. Sorry.
I think it's just because the cadence,
yeah,
it rolls off the tongue the same way for me and my brain. Yeah.
So no Eminem, but definitely Labour and people leaving the country. Funnily enough, so the main argument, and I try not to get too political in these posts for obvious reasons,
political, Dan.
Everything is political. You can't really avoid it, and the gist of it was that Labour have been in power just over a year now, and my argument was if their plan was to grow the economy, and it's kind of hard to get away from the view that they failed to do that so far. Last year the UK had more millionaires leaving than any other country. I think it was over 16,000 millionaires are predicted to leave the country before the end of 2025. And that's on top of the 10,000 or so that left last year. At least 18 billionaires have also reportedly moved out of the country since in the last couple of years, sort of post-COVID, which means that Britain's now the only G7 economy that's expected to post negative millionaire growth this year. And obviously, there's Rachel Reeves, they came in and last year's budget said, we really want to kind of supercharge the economy. And it's like I say, it's hard to see how they've done that, because the budget last year, you CGT went up. You've got the IHT changes. There's talk about a potential wealth tax in the future, and you're raising national insurance contributions on employers, which means that costs for employers have gone up, and a lot of businesses are now leaving the UK as well. You think, well, if the high net worth individuals, if the millionaires and the billionaires of this country, and potentially the businesses of this country as well, are all kind of saying had enough of all this and are going places like Greece, Singapore, and other places that offer a more attractive kind of lifestyle and tax benefits for them. How are you going to grow the economy when the wealthiest in the economy are leaving?
Yeah, what's the answer, Dan?
Well, I don't know. Maybe not raise taxes so much, but it's a difficult position that Labour and any other government are in. But when you add to that, like I said, the CGT changes, the IHT on pensions, it means that even those that aren't considered wealthy, they're still being discouraged from saving. It doesn't feel like any kind of real incentive to save anymore, particularly if all of these policy changes go ahead. So my argument was that if there's not, if people aren't investing as much, which they, because of CGT and other factors, if businesses are having to pay more costs, if the wealthy are leaving, it just, I don't know, it feels like a bit of a ripple effect on the economy, which is the one thing Labour have kind of focused on.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting and fraught and difficult subject, because I do have sympathy for this government to an extent, because I think, I sort of wished it well when it arrived. I thought, I thought Labour deserved to win the last election after a lot of mismanagement and scandal from the previous Tory administration. Yeah. It won a very, very, very large majority, albeit on the back of very ruthless tactical voting. And I remember people describing it at the time as a loveless landslide, in the sense that the commitment to Labour was not sort of deep and sincere. It was very much an anti-Tory vote, and the problem with that is, the mood amongst the electorate is very febrile, and you worry that people are casting around to solutions for what are very, very, very deep-seated economic problems, and they're not going to get them in a hurry. I think Labour has been enormously cautious. if anything, I think people would elect a Labour government to be more radical than this one.
Yeah.
This one wants to be. Whether that is radical in whatever political direction you personally favour, it seems to me that Labour ruled out in advance 70% of the tax rate.
Yeah.
But tax take by not pledging not to raise taxes on quote unquote working people. But that has quite often been a sort of a distinction without a difference. Certainly the rise of national insurance on employers is, you could say, that's not a tax on working people, but in practice it is. Employers are working people for a start, and the impacts of that, the burden that's put on lots and lots of companies means that a lot of them have had to make redundancies, not hired people, delayed investments elsewhere.
Pay rises.
I think in terms of the growth agenda, that policy has been a disaster. I think other ones have just been clumsy, like the winter fuel rates, or the IHT on pensions, which every expert I've ever talked to have just said, all that's done is create a bureaucratic mess, and there are other ways to raise the same amount of money in simpler forms. So if you want a saving, investing, a growing sort of environment, Labour need to be doing more to create it. I have heard people who are more sympathetic to the Labour government saying that a lot of the Rachel Reeves has to try and find ways of raising money for the spending commitments and the investments that she wants to make. Some of those will over time bear economic fruit in the longer term. The OBR doesn't seem to think that, but I've heard that argument made, in which case the argument would be this Labour government just needs more time for its policies to bear fruit. The problem is that we're in a political environment that is not massively, it's not known for its patience. I was chatting to Steve Webb the other day, who's obviously former pensions minister, former Lib Dem MP, and we were actually talking about first past the post versus proportional representation in the voting system, and the virtues or benefits of one or the other. And he was sort of saying the thing about it is you have you can talk about the voting system, but you have a country which has transferred its affections in terms of vote share and polling results from Theresa May to Jeremy Corbyn, to Boris Johnson, to Keir Starmer, and now to Nigel Farage. Yeah. And no voting system will be able to possibly account for such mad swings back and forth in all kinds of political directions. And as I say, it's symptomatic of a mood in the country which is A, distrustful of politicians and doubtful about their ability to affect real meaningful change, and B, is very, very, very impatient for, we've put up with a lot of hardship ever since the financial crisis. We want someone to fix this. We almost don't care what political stripe they are. We just want someone to solve these problems. And
that's not going to happen through chopping and changing, is it?
It isn't going to stop through chopping and changing at all. But even if you even have a long-term stability, stick with one government for a long period of time, you're going to have to accept you're going to measure this in years and years and years, not in one parliament. So
it's so hard right now, Tom.
Yes, it is. But I'm one of those people. You're talking about will the wealthy, last of the wealthy people to please turn out the lights. If Nigel Farage or Reform get in, I would very much consider leaving and turning out the light myself.
It's all right for you. It's all right for you. You've got an Irish passport. What am I supposed to do?
Well.
I'm just gonna have to
I'm sure those countries are giving out opportunities.
We'll build you a granny annex in the garden.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be amazing. Thank you. To sleep in the end.
I'd offer you to come to Zimbabwe if you want.
It's amazing. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Because I will definitely be looking to leave as well if that's the case. So thank you. I'll exhaust all options.
Dual passports for the win.
But I think this all comes back to all eyes on Rachel Reeves and the November budget, because I think she has an impossible balancing act. Labour are tanking in the polls at the moment. People are demanding an election now, a year in,
crazy.
Which is complete. Well, it's complete constitutional lunacy for them to be demanding that for a start. But the very fact that they are it's the classic sort of, you might as well be hung for a goat than a sheep. If you're going to be massively unpopular, why not
just lean into it?
Yes, make some radical steps that will actually make a difference, and accept that you're going to annoy some people in the process. It's always a question of like, which section of people do you least want to annoy, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think what's even more crazy is we spoke about this last week, Tom, is that they, partly for the reasons that you mentioned earlier with, the dissatisfaction with the Tories and other factors, but they had such a big majority.
Yeah.
It's not even like it was it was close. It was such a landslide victory. And as you say, a year in, people already calling for an election. Is just a sign of how tough the last year's been for them, I think.
I mean, I don't think the Labour. I don't think the government does the politics side of government well at all.
No.
I think in terms of their communication, what Bill Clinton used to call the vision thing, selling people on a positive picture or something that people can get behind. Keir Starmer he's not a Barack Obama. He's not a Clinton. He's not that kind of communicator at all. And I like Keir Starmer, I think, more than most people seem to, but even I acknowledge that he's not that kind of person, and he's not going to become that kind of person.
No.
So I think again it's try and lean into your strengths as much as possible. There was a great election poster when Gordon Browne was Prime Minister for the election that he actually never called. He ended up not calling it, but the poster that was planned was not Flash, just Gordon.
Oh, that's very good.
Very good.
Very good.
You don't like it, Kim?
I like it.
It's so great. I'm sorry, it's so great.
Oh, I thought it was good because it was the whole idea.
I understand the reference, and again, I think at the time most people would have got the reference. Now, not so much.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, it's probably a bit dated now. But the whole idea of look, this guy is not Mr. Charisma. That he's a safe pair of hands, and in a dangerous, disordered world, a safe pair of hands. Don't underestimate the importance of a safe pair of hands. Yeah,
you say that, but unfortunately, people need the charisma. Clearly, with like. You can see certain world leaders where you're like, how are you qualified? But it's just the way they present themselves that's won people over.
I mean, Trump, Farage, Boris Johnson, you can say anything you want about them, and I often do. But one thing they do kind of all have is some element of charisma.
Yeah.
Which people, political views,
it would be a great sidekick. He'd be a great sidekick.
Who would, sorry?
Keir Starmer.
Yeah.
He'd be a great sidekick, but I don't know if he's the guy.
Yeah.
Psychic Starmer.
We'll have to. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll have to. He certainly something will have to change because he'll come under a kind of increasing pressure, and if people are a government that is divided and battling headlines the whole time is not able. It's harder for them to get their agenda through, I think. But we shall have to see. I mean, it will be interesting to see what direction Rachel Reeves goes in the next budget. We've got quite a long time to talk about it. So
yeah,
you're right though. I don't see where she can go. It's just that 70% of kind of options ruled out.
I wanted to go absolutely crazy.
Quite a big fiscal black hole to fill, and not very much wriggle room to work with. I just don't know.
We were saying this in the office the other day that this is the first budget I can remember where I literally don't have a clue as to what she's going to do. And what was worrying me is that I think that maybe she doesn't have a clue either. Hence why it's been pushed back so far to the next
one. To give her more time to prep.
Yeah.
There's no real rumors. I mean, I think on the mortgage side there have been quite a few, but in terms of like overall, not that much.
There's been the rumours about the tax-free lump cash on pensions, and there's been a few kind of potential IHT and further IHT and further CGT rumours. But the issue with that, as advisors will know all too well, is that this pre-budget speculation. I think it's almost been worse this time round because, as Tom says, nobody really knows what's going to happen, and from an advisor's point of view, that must be an absolute nightmare because how it's difficult when you're getting sort of concerned phone calls from clients saying, I've heard this, I've heard that, what might happen? And it is purely speculation and hearsay at the moment.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult to stop. And that's where the advisor comes in. The role is so important because people do make knee-jerk decisions in these kind of times and potentially disastrous financial decisions. And I wouldn't want to be an advisor right now because I think it's just, they must be getting bombarded. And what do you say? It's like, wait till we have some actual news because you can't. Yeah.
I think that's all you can say, and I think I'm sure there'll be lots of panic calls because you remember last year the budget was kind of like, it was sort of pitched as a sort of like, we're front loading all the pain in this budget in the anticipation that we won't have to come back for more sort of like tax rises later, and I don't know that argument is sustainable this time round because if the idea was to fix a fiscal black hole, I don't think the economic news has gone in such a way that that's been fixed. So she will have to come back with more taxes, and I don't understand. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what shape they take and what moves there will be on the growth agenda this time. It's exciting times. But I should just say I'm going to be away for a lot of it. So
yes, you will be. And we'll touch on that towards the end. But Dan, I did have one more question. Sure. With the wealthy moving out of the country, do you think then that means that we will have more financial advisors who will be getting well-versed in having clients who are expats? Because I've spoken to a couple who deal with clients who are also based in Australia, for example, because there's a similar system. But then there's other countries that these people, like you're saying, Singapore or Greece. Yeah. So do you think that might be where some advisors might be moving towards to maintain their client base who might be moving?
Yeah, I think potentially they might be. And, there's sort of a few firms like Hoxton Wealth and others who are, advising expats internationally, and they'll probably be seeing, I imagine, an increase in inquiries and referrals. But yeah, I think if they're moving abroad and advisors want to keep those clients, I think they're going to have to kind of, if they're not already, be more so well versed in different jurisdictions.
Yeah. Well, again, exciting times, like Tom said.
Exciting times.
Depending on how you view excitement.
We'd be cursed to live in exciting times.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're coming up to October. And October, we have one big event for Money Marketing, which is Money Marketing Interactive London. So we are looking forward to that. And I will be hosting some panels. Dan will be hosting some panels there, and we'll be discussing a whole host of things from AI to, building businesses and different business owners' perspectives on that. But Tom, like you mentioned, you will be away because you have more exciting things happening in your life.
Sure have, yes. My second child is imminent. In fact, this is the last thing that I'll be doing before I disappear on paternity leave. Yes. In fact, by the time this comes out, the baby will also have come out. So it's very exciting. So I'm going to be off for most of October. It was very annoying that they pushed the budget back because I had plans of just putting my feet up, eating some popcorn, watching that on TV, maybe occasionally texting Dan saying how's the coverage going. Fortunately, I'll be back just in time to take.
What a shame!
What a shame!
Yeah,
but that's karma for you, see.
Yeah.
I will be missing MMI London, unfortunately, which is the 9th of October, I believe, unless I gate crash it with my small child.
Oh, please do.
I'm sure the child will have much to offer in the way of comment. But yeah, no, I didn't. The good ship Money Marketing is in Dan's very capable hands while I'm away. So keep reading. Don't go, well, we'll switch off for a month too. There's no point.
No, they can't do that.
But all the great content will still be rolling along, and all the great news as well.
Definitely.
Okay.
October's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
October will be fun. And I think, please do. If you haven't already registered for MMI London, please do. We will also be hosting our inaugural Young Financial Planner Awards, the YFPAs. So those will be happening on the same day as well, where we're just kind of giving recognition to young talent within financial advice. So that will be a new exciting thing we're doing. So please do join us. And I hope to speak to you guys next month. Well, Tom, maybe not. You have more pressing matters, like, raising a human being.
Nappies and sick and crying.
Oh God, don't start.
Like actual life things. But we will man the fort. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll look after it over here and make sure everything keeps on ticking over.
Excellent, grand. Appreciated it. Right.
Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Everyone. Cheers. Bye.